The weight of the metal was a cold comfort in my hand. Not a gun, something quieter, something more personal. His laughter echoed from the other room, the sound grating against the raw edges of my nerves. He thought he had won. He thought it was over. He was wrong. So very wrong. It started subtly, like a persistent cough you try to ignore. A text from the bank, an unfamiliar charge on a credit card statement I barely glanced at. Small tremors in the bedrock of my life. At the time, Mark had been my closest friend, practically family since his mother. My father's distant cousin had passed away years ago. We'd bonded over shared histories, late-night talks that blurred into dawn, a comfortable camaraderie that felt unbreakable. Now, the memory tasted like ash. The first red flag was almost comical. A notification for a hiking gear purchase, a top-of-the-line backpack and trekking poles. I hadn't been hiking in years. I dismissed it as a bank error, a wrong number. Mark, leaning back on my couch, scrolling through his phone, had chuckled when I mentioned it. Maybe you're having a midlife crisis you haven't told me about. His easy smile hadn't reached his eyes. A flicker, gone too fast to register. Then came the emails, addressed to me, confirming reservations at a spa resort I'd never heard of. The dates coincided with a week Mark had mentioned he'd be out of town visiting family. My gut tightened, a cold not forming. I started paying closer attention. Small things. Mark's unusual interest in my online banking habits. His casual questions about my security protocols. At the time, I'd seen it as concern. Now, each instance replayed in my mind, a sinister mosaic forming. The second mini-twist hit like a physical blow. A call from the bank's fraud department. They were investigating suspicious activity on my accounts. Large withdrawals, wire transfers to unknown recipients. The agent's voice was calm, professional, but the words landed like shards of glass. I felt a wave of nausea. The room tilting. Mark was at my kitchen table, making coffee. He looked up, concern etched on his face. Everything okay? Man, you look pale. His concern felt rehearsed, too perfect. Denial is a powerful drug. I clung to the image of the friend I thought I knew, the one who'd helped me through tough times, the one whose laughter had filled my apartment for years. But the evidence was mounting, cold and undeniable. I started my own investigation, a quiet, desperate hunt for the truth. Late nights spent poring over bank statements, tracing IP addresses, piecing together the digital breadcrumbs he'd carelessly left behind. The third revelation was the cruelest. I found an email, deleted but recoverable, a conversation between Mark and someone I didn't recognize. They were discussing the final stages of their plan, the clean break, the new identities. My identity, my life. They were going to erase me. The casual callousness of their words, the betrayal by someone I trusted implicitly, sent a cold fury coursing through me. The friendship I had cherished, the bond I believed was real, was a meticulously crafted lie. The humiliation was a constant companion. The feeling of being so thoroughly duped, so easily manipulated. I saw pity in the eyes of the bank employees, confusion in the worried calls from distant relatives who'd noticed the unusual activity. Mark played the concerned friend perfectly, offering support, feigning shock and outrage. Each display of false sympathy was a fresh wound, but beneath the humiliation, something else was growing, a quiet resolve. The initial shock and anger were hardening into something colder, more focused. I stopped confronting him, stopped asking questions. I became withdrawn, observing him with a newfound clarity. He didn't notice. He was too busy counting his imagined gains, too confident in his deception. My days became a study in observation, my nights filled with meticulous planning. I learned his routines, his online habits, his weaknesses. I started moving my remaining assets, creating a ghost trail of my own. I wasn't interested in reclaiming the money. That was secondary. I wanted something more profound, something that would cut deeper. The opportunity came disguised as a going-away party. Mark had announced he was moving across the country for a new job opportunity. A lie, I knew. It was the final act, the vanishing act after he'd bled my life dry. He insisted on hosting a small gathering at my place, a final show of camaraderie. The night of the party, he was jovial, almost giddy. Our mutual friends, oblivious to the undercurrent of tension, raised toasts and offered well wishes. I played the part of the gracious host, a faint smile plastered on my face. Inside, a cold calm had settled over me. The metal in my pocket felt heavy, reassuring. After everyone had left and the last echoes of laughter faded, it was just the two of us. He started to say something, a platitude about our friendship, but I cut him off. "It's over, Mark," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. Confusion flickered in his eyes. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer. I simply placed the evidence on the table, the bank statements, the emails, the meticulously documented timeline of his betrayal. His face paled, the bravado melting away like ice. He tried to deny it, to bluster, but the weight of the evidence was too much. He saw the cold certainty in my eyes. He knew. My revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was precise, targeted. Over the past few weeks, while he was busy celebrating his impending theft, I had been working. I hadn't just moved my money. I had meticulously documented every illegal transaction, every forged signature, every digital footprint he had left. I had contacted the authorities, providing them with an airtight case, all the evidence neatly packaged and ready. As he stood there, speechless, the doorbell rang. Two plainclothes detectives stood in the hallway. The look on Mark's face as they read him his rights was a satisfaction I hadn't anticipated. Not triumph, but a cold sense of justice served. He was led away in handcuffs, the weight of his actions finally settling upon him. As the police car pulled away, I closed the door, the sound echoing in the sudden silence of my apartment. It was over. The friendship was irrevocably broken. My financial life was in ruins, but something else had been salvaged. My sense of self, but that wasn't the end of it. The bigger twist came a week later, a letter from an attorney. It detailed Mark's will, written years ago, before the greed had consumed him. He had named me, his closest friend, as his sole beneficiary. It turned out, his new job opportunity was a lie, concealing a terminal illness he had kept secret. The identity theft wasn't about money. It was a twisted, desperate attempt to ensure my financial security after he was gone. A misguided and catastrophic act of love. The weight in my hand felt different now. Colder, heavier. Friendship ends forever. Some endings are more final than others.